Joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us, Newt Gingrich, who, of course, is running for president. And I'm sure, Newt, that if you thought about the optics of a trip to Africa that includes a private family safari and the extended Obama family going, and if you were somehow a Republican in doing all of this at a time of economic peril, NBC and ABC probably wouldn't be reporting on it as if it were, the next best thing since sliced bread.
Oh, gosh. Are you suggesting I might have actually lived through recent shock? That I'd gone on a trip and that it was clearly an inappropriate trip, even though it was paid for with private money, not taxpayers' money?
No, I actually didn't even think about it.
Are you suggesting that there's a double standard in the elite media? Laura, I can't believe I'm on a radio show where you're suggesting that there's a double. Next, you're going to tell me you think NBC might have deliberately dropped Under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, this is the kind of elite, bashing the media that just I find so hard to deal with.
Newt, I'm thinking about, of course, the fact that the Obamas have no record to run on. The record is abysmal economically speaking. And so we've gone back to the same type of reporting done on the Obamas before they became even known, very well known to the American public. This was the run-up to the 2008 campaign reporting that we're doing. It's unbelievable.
No, you have to assume that the elite media, and I think, again, the NBC mistake this weekend is a perfect example. The media identifies with Obama. The elite media sees his reelection as their reelection. They see his defeat as their defeat. And I think you expect, and not only will he have $1 billion and the White House and the labor unions, but he will have virtually all of the elite media during year and a half, and they'll do everything they can to avoid his responsibility for the Obama depression, to avoid his responsibility for 14 million people out of work, to avoid his responsibility for the fact that housing prices have dropped more deeply than they did during the Depression. All those things will suddenly be just unfortunate moments in an otherwise joyful experience of life with Obama.
Yeah, as NBC reported, spreading hope and optimism to the children of Africa. And I'm thinking, well, okay, that's fine, but it would be nice if some of that hope and optimism were here in the United States.
Well, when you had 45% African-American teenage unemployment in January in the United States, it would have been nice for the president to have focused a little bit on bringing that hope and optimism to young Americans as well as young Africans. Again, I don't object to the President of the United States traveling, but this particular president is so lacking in responsibility and so overwhelmingly protected by the elite media that it's a disservice to the country.
And Newt's new book just out, A Nation Like No Other. And Newt, a lot of people are focusing on what the EPA is pushing through with environmental regulations, part of the Clean Air Act, a huge controversy brewing about what that's going to do to jobs in the American power industry and so forth. And this is what Mitt Romney had to say about man-made global warming.
I don't speak for the scientific community, of course, but I believe the world is getting warmer. I can't prove that, but I believe, based on what I read, that the world is getting warmer. And number two, I believe that humans contribute to that.
Do you agree with that?
No, I think first of all, you'd have to ask him what therefore would he do about it. I testified against cap and trade at the Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman Joe Barton asked me to come, and I actually followed Al Gore. It was kind of an interesting moment. I think that the facts are very much up in the air. There's certainly a scientific political consensus, but there are a number of dissenting scientists who don't agree with it. And science shouldn't be about votes. Science ought to be about trying to get at the truth. I know of no projection that would convince me that we ought to spend trillions of dollars and turn the economy over to the bureaucrats at EPA in order to somehow avoid a crisis that may well not exist at all, and certainly doesn't exist in a format that requires us to give up our freedom. I will actually make a speech later on this summer about replacing the Environmental Protection Agency with a brand new Environmental Solutions Agency, because I think that it is the current agency is so anti-business, it's so anti-jobs, and it's so anti-local government. that it really is a Washington-based bureaucrat.
Well, why do you want anything based in Washington for solutions, Newt? I mean, with all due respect, Washington is about the last place I'd put an agency for solutions.
Well, maybe we should put it in Topeka, Kansas, or Des Moines, Iowa. But I think the notion is that you actually want an agency that collaborates with state and local government, not dictates to them. And you want an agency that actually works with the business community to find solutions. It doesn't dictate to them. And that's fundamentally different than where the Environmental Protection Agency is today.
Do you think that right now you can see yourself making up the gap that exists between you and a Romney or a Bachmann in these polls? I mean, I know polls are snapshots and so forth, but you're pretty far down in the polls considering your name ID and you know, people know about your books. They know about your ability to pretty much speak on any subject without notes. You're not somebody who's going to have to get tutored in the basics of economics. You know these things. Yet you still have some ground to make up.
But we have a lot of ground to make up. There's no question about that. And part of the question will be whether a campaign of content and solutions that's specific actually turns out to be what the American people want, given 14 million unemployed and all the other economic and other problems that we currently face. But I'm optimistic in the sense that at this stage in 2007, Rudy Giuliani was the front runner among Republicans, and Hillary Clinton was the front runner among Democrats. And in fact, you know, the American people have a long time. I mean, we're 7 months away from Iowa making the first serious decision about who's going to be the nominee. And I'm going to continue to go out and talk to people. I'll be in Iowa about 12 days the next month. And I'm going to continue talking to people at grassroots level, much like John McCain did when he got to a similar intersection back in 2007.
Do you like Rick Perry, the governor of Texas?
I like him a lot. I wrote the foreword to his most recent book. I think he's been a great governor of Texas. He'll be a very formidable competitor if he gets in the race. He has a terrific job creation record, and he has a message of very dramatic change. I mean, if the country was run more like Texas, we'd be creating a heck of a lot more jobs than we are right now.
I think he just hired you as his.
I tell the truth about all these guys, and
yeah, I like him.
Somebody I really like.
I like him. Romney didn't sign that Susan B. Anthony group, that pro-life group pledge. Some people have some trouble with the way it was worded, but at any rate, he didn't sign that pledge. You did. Does that tell us anything about Romney's commitment to the life issue, or is that much ado about nothing?
Well, I don't know. I think people have to make that decision on their own. He has his excuses for not doing it. The Susan B. Anthony people feel pretty strongly about it. I thought it was a pretty clear-cut pledge, and I think that as technology and science has evolved, it's gotten harder and harder not to admit that when a woman is carrying a baby, it's actually a baby, and I think that's a key part of their point, that we're learning more and more about babies and about when they feel pain and about whether or not they're really a person. And everything we're learning from the scientific community is strengthening the hand of those who believe in a right to life.
What's going on with your staff now? I know some people left. Look, I've had staff come and go too, so I'm not all wowed by that story. But what's the latest on that? Who's working for you? Do you have
The funny thing, Laura, was that with the singular exception of one person, everybody who left had been consultants we'd hired recently. All the original team, except for one person, all the original team I built over the last 10 or 12 years is still there. We're working hard as a group, and we're plugging away. Anybody who wants to can go to newt.org, my campaign website, just my first name, and can see what we're doing. And I have a speech tomorrow at the Atlanta Press Club on reforming the Federal Reserve and auditing the Federal Reserve and repealing the Dodd-Frank bill. And I'm going to continue a campaign of substance and a campaign of going out at a retail level in places like Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and laying the base for the primaries.